Hello and welcome to Shine, Love and Light On. Today I've got Alicia Temmerman, or Dumais Temmerman, with me. She's helping me to shine love and light on spirit guides. And so a little bit about me. My name's Penny Vandersloot. I'm host of this podcast and founder of Discover Your Wild. And I love bringing women particularly together to talk about the topics that we don't talk about, things that are taboo or hidden or we've felt shame about. And this particular topic was something I would never have thought I'd talk about in a million years for all sorts of reasons, and some of them we'll talk about, but it's one that I've learned so much from through Alicia. So I felt it was really an opportune time for us to get together. We've known each other 20 plus years. Our lives have been, we've come together and had time apart, but got more and more close in the last few years. So it's really beautiful to share this space with you, Alicia. Thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm really excited to have the opportunity just to shine light on this topic as well. And I'm excited to hear, actually, I feel like I want to interview you because I want to know, tell me all the reasons why you never thought you'd talk about this. And so I'm sure
I think I wasn't a believer. Like, this is part of it. And I wonder how many people listening are like, what is this like? Is this a real thing? My understanding of any sort of spiritual thing came through religion and a schooling of a Christian religion, and one that I was from my home life. It wasn't, we were an atheist family effectively. So it was sort of, there's a real sense of science ruled, and so I couldn't quite get my head around how anything spiritual, otherworldly was possible. It just didn't, it wasn't a possibility. So I think it took, my dad passed away over 3 years ago now, and knowing that he was aging, I think it opened up a curiosity for me and an openness just in my own journey that allowed me to get curious and start to seek out and spend time with people who had more experience in this space. And I think that's, even you were an example of that. And then I think maybe we're starting to awaken to this as being a bit more safer to talk about anyway. So there's a whole range of reasons, I guess. But I wasn't a believer, I think. So I wonder how many you come across as an example. And angels, I think I always wanted to, it was a bit more fantasy, fairies and angels and things that you had from a childhood.
Yes.
And I guess, but at the same time, what I've noticed is as I've become more attuned to it, there's an understanding or kind of a sense of, oh, that makes sense. I had that experience, a feeling that was something I had an experience with but had no words for. So now I get intuition or a sense of someone looking out for you. And now my dad's passed on, I guess a real contentment that we're connected, even though he's a different being now.
Yeah, and I think your experience is really common, that it's not until we're confronted with the death of a loved one, or for you it was preparing for that, that we start to kind of ask those bigger questions. And that's where it started for me. My interest was when I was in year 10 at school, so I was about 15, and my cousin died of cancer. And I couldn't understand it. I couldn't get my head around it. And she was so fit and so healthy and so good at sport and so talented. And I was like, how can she just be here and then not be here? And so that led me to start reading a lot about spirituality kind of back then in year 10. So it was that same, it kind of put me on path that led me to then getting interested in guardian angels, which I think invited the experience that I had in 2012, which was when I started to have the full-on experiences communicating and connecting with people call them spirit guides, energies beyond our dimension, angels, all such things.
Okay, so for people who haven't heard your story, maybe you could give us a little bit of a sense. So
yes.
pre-2012, you were a busy mum, 2 little children,
Yes.
a lawyer.
Yes.
Very mainstream, kind of normal, really, weren't you?
Yes. Very mainstream, living that life of trying to do the best in my job and be a mum and friend and wife and all that stuff. And I was just actually totally exhausted pre-2012. So I had hit a wake-up call in around 2000 and maybe early 2011 or something like that, where I was just getting myself completely run down, exhausted. I was getting sick all the time. And I just was like, I can't keep doing this. I'm going to end up in an asylum if I just keep trying to work at this pace. Like, I was working in a big law firm and the hours are extraordinary. The stress was pretty full on, and trying to do that. And once I was a mum of then 2 kids, everything was just pushing on me. And so that's when I started to get back in touch with the inner journey, that I had really done a lot of things and studied lots of things, but I'd forgotten and I got distracted with life. And so that's when I went back to my meditation and journaling and really trying to connect back with my soul, which led to an experience at a shaking meditation class, which led to hanging out the washing on the 12th of March 2012, when I literally started communicating with another energy, being, connection, whatever language you want to use, but using my voice. As you've heard this story, Pen, but for those of you who haven't, it was pretty out there. It was like my voice just started talking to me, but I wasn't directing it. So it was like, I am. And like about 30 times I'm hanging out the washing and it's like, I am. Like, what is going on here? I'm just was kind of in awe, but also
freaked out.
Half freaked out, but I felt this calm, like beautiful calmness had washed over me, and finally breaks through in this kind of masculine tone, Goenga. I am Goenga. And I was like, okay, I've never seen this. I now understand it to be mediumship or channeling. I didn't know really what those things were. I didn't know the word channeling. I'd never heard it before. I'd only seen Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost, where she has the experience. That's all I'd seen ever. That was kind of my only narrative around it. So yes, this happened, and he shared a lot of information with me around kind of the truth of who I am and my role on earth. And over the coming about 6 weeks, I had a number of other energies, guides come through and communicate with me in the same way I am, introduce themselves by name, very different mannerisms, female, male, appearing as that, as they communicated to me. And I got my video recorder out because I was like, I have to record this stuff because I was an investigator, workplace investigator, and I needed the proof that I wasn't going completely bonkers. And so, yes, I recorded them all and I watched them back like, whoa, it was incredible. But it took me over 6 years to tell more than about 6 people, because just what you said at the start was that I didn't feel safe to start talking to people about this, to say, hey, by the way.
Because people would have thought you're bonkers.
Yeah.
There's this whole kind of thing that if it's not in our reality and not verified,
yes,
you can't be telling the truth.
Yeah. It's just, she just must have this crazy imagination or must be crazy.
Hoax or something.
Or hoax, or that she's making it up. But the kind of legal analysis was like, this is either true or I am crazy and have gone spontaneously crazy with no history of mental illness. And in fact, I'm super conservative. I'm too responsible. I haven't got drug taking history. I don't drink alcohol. I was like, that didn't match up. But I also knew it was highly unusual. a highly unusual experience that for many people they would find it confronting. And that's why I wanted the evidence as well. And so when I was watching things back and I had physiological changes that were taking place in my body, a pelvis injury just was miraculously healed, my voice changed and I could sing in tune when I hadn't been able to before. So there were just a number of things that were like, for me, there was physiological proof that something was happening. And that I think every human, we have to get to that point. We don't have to, but I invite people to get to the point where we say, you know what, the logical mind only takes us to a certain point.
But also as a human, you know, if we look back over history, we've changed what is reality anyway. Like the world was flat for a while and women's bodies looked beautiful when they were voluptuous, and now they look, you know, whatever's considered normal is a skinny size, whatever. So, you know, maybe if we rewound 4,000 years, what you were having as an experience would have been considered normal, but right now it's not. So therefore, you know, you're just testing out what it is and what's safe to share with people, I guess, an experience.
And my sense is that it was considered normal a long time ago. And I mean, there are even references in the Bible to, you know, angels appearing and people having visitations from angels and that didn't have human bodies that they communicated with. So it's something that is in the religious texts, yet for some reason it's kind of been regarded over the years as something that you don't dabble in, you know, that it might be something like seancey or something, and you might be invoking or calling in something scary.
Well, I think that's one of the, if I could just interrupt, one of the reasons why it's taboo is possibly because it could be considered dangerous, or maybe that's why people don't want to explore it. Because I know, you know, even when you said your clothesline experience, there's part of me that goes, oh, that's a bit scary to think something's taking you over as a body.
Yes.
So I guess I get why, you know, someone curious now, maybe thinking, oh, I've had an experience before, I'd like to have one, experience that fear.
Yes. And I understand that, because it's the unknown.
The scary dark side.
From the mental, and from our logical, mental, rational mind, it's an unknown. But from my experience, it's such a known, like at our true core and being of who we really are, which is, in my view, these magnificent energies and light beings that are indestructible, eternal and infinite and part of all that is and all that ever was. So from that place of that lens of how I see humans, it's totally normal. But from my previous human, what I, you know, thought and knew to be true, even though I always had a belief in these kind of things, it wasn't until I concretely experienced it that really convinced me. But I was still kind of this skeptic along the way, still wanting more and more and more evidence. And I still love gathering the evidence, even now, which has been like 9 years later, even though I am 100% convinced, there's no doubt in any part of me that it's not true. But yeah, the dangerous concept, I can understand why people would have those fears. And I did, because I felt like I was being taken over, even though it was very loving and beautiful and caring, and the messages have only ever been that. So I've never experienced anything that has been vaguely dark, concern, like nothing. It's only very angelic realm and guides who are regarded as ascended masters. Like it's at this frequency, which is where I'm able to, they access me, I access them through the channel of frequency, because that's how they've explained it to me. We're just all energy, everything's energy and frequencies, and so they can get on to my station basically, and I can get on to their station, or we can join in the middle. They've got to dense themselves down substantially to get onto my channel. So I can understand though that people would maybe go, oh gosh, I don't know what I'm going to get. Like if I open that up, what's going to come. And so many people, and some of your listeners may have experienced something where they've had some synchronicities, or they've had some intuition, or they've had a premonition, or they've felt something going on like that, but that they then maybe shut it down because they're fearful. And I know for me, when it all started happening, I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to walk around now and see spirits everywhere. I want to be, I want to be able to, I want to have a normal experience. Like, I'm a mum, we've got 4 kids now. I'm very just day-to-day stuff. And I don't want to have to be like at the supermarket and suddenly everyone's deceased relatives are popping up around them. And so I've put that boundary currently around my abilities so that that doesn't happen. You can work on that and open that if I choose to down the track. And I have had some experiences of communicating with loved ones, but only those who have been close to me. So it's something that, we have to, if you are someone who's experiencing different things, you are in control, always in control. And it only happened, it seems like I wasn't, and that it came in unexpectedly, but only because I had invited it. I had been seeking, I had been journaling, I had been seeking and wanting to talk, particularly at that time, to my guardian angel, who I believed existed, and I felt her presence. So I had opened it. So we have free will. So
I think that's a really good point, just for someone here who's curious or wondering what this is all about, just to understand that we are choosing how we want to absorb this information, absorb these frequencies. That's really, powerful in itself, isn't it? To know that you can go down this path, or you don't have to.
Yes, absolutely. And at any moment, like, I could say, right, tomorrow I'm no longer channeling, I'm no longer connecting with any guides, I'm just going back to my human life and my day-to-day stuff. And I could make that choice tomorrow, right now, if I chose to, because no longer do they just fly in. Now that I've kind of honed my ability around it, it's only ever when I invite now, in terms of the actual direct channeling where they communicate. And there's a couple of ways they communicate. So one is like direct channeling, where I call them in and they come to the front. So it's very much their personality. It's the way they move their hands is different to how I do. They use my voice differently. Some speak in completely different accents. Some speak in different languages. So that's why I kind of laugh if people would ever think that I make it up. I'm like, I do not have time in my life, running my businesses with 4 kids, to actually practice all this stuff in advance and work it all out, like, and script it, like, honestly.
And trust me, I know Leigh, she's got a lot going on. You've got enough time to do anything. I'm surprised.
There's just no time for that. So anyway, yes. So just knowing that you've got that control at any time to be able to invite it in or not. So there's the front channeling where they're at the front, and then there's other times where I call in an energy for a message, but it will be that I ask to be at the front. So then it looks like me talking. You can see a slight change as some intonations different, or the pace, but it kind of looks like Alicia talking, but the words are just flowing through. And then there's another type of channeling which I don't do, which is trance channeling, where you completely kind of surrender your being and the energy comes in and they talk, and then they leave and you come back and you're not conscious of it, so you don't remember. So I'm conscious of everything. So when I do my energy healings, when I'm doing messages, it's very much that I'm just there and I'm watching, and the words are coming and I'm conscious for all of it.
It's fascinating. Wow. Okay, so I'm just wondering if we've missed something to kind of keep people on the track with us. So,
yes.
We've talked a little bit about why it's taboo. I guess, why do you think it's important that we do start to shine some love and light on this? And, why have you come out and, I guess, risk your personal integrity to some degree in terms of your law profession and everything?
Yes.
why did you sort of feel that it was time, or it's really important that people get to hear this aspect of our existence?
Yeah, thank you. It's a beautiful question. And yeah, it was something that I thought about a lot. Do I risk that everything I've built in my profession to be regarded as this credible human who is just, doing the normal things, to then come out and say, hey, by the way, everyone, this is something else that I've experienced. And ultimately it came down to me that I knew that it was what I was supposed to be doing. I know that with such clarity, that it was like I couldn't hold it anymore.
Yeah.
So I had these amazing experiences. I had these incredible messages that had brought me so much peace and had removed worry out of my life and had just brought so much calm and had created a sense of really having life so much more on my terms that I look around and I just saw and still see so many people who are beaten down by life. They're not having fun. They're not enjoying this experience. They are worried. They are stressed. They are overwhelmed. They are disconnected. They are alone. They feel like they're not enough. They doubt themselves, all that stuff. And I just knew that I had all these messages and information that could potentially, even if at the end of the day, I got to the point where even if I could help kind of liberate the mind of one person, then it's going to be worth it for me to kind of put myself out there at the risk of people thinking she's gone bonkers. So that's what it came down to, was if I could just bring some more peace, some more calm, some more assurance that we never die, that your loved ones never die, that the connections will always continue, and that we are here growing, learning, experiencing, and there is no good or bad or success or not success, all the stuff that we think in this human life, all the stuff that we can think, and I have thought in the past, all those things that are important at the real truth level, a lot of that stuff really does not matter.
So that's even you sharing that with us alone is awesome. If no one else delves into this topic ever again, but comes away knowing that, that's a huge gift that you're giving people, and a huge, piece of, it would have been a huge weight to carry as well, right? To know that, and then know, hang on, I haven't offered this to someone else. I get why you felt like you needed to sort of, you're bursting to share it.
Yes, it was that. It was just like, I can't hold this. I can't hold these messages anymore. Like, enough, Alicia. Just do it. Just get out there. And even what you've shared then, it may or may not be that people might listen and hear the words. But what I ask and invite people to consider is just to listen from the depth of you to the things I've shared, and do they feel true? The resonance, the frequency of those things, do they feel at some level like, oh, that actually feels like it could be true and could be right? And what I do find when I speak to people is, I often ask the question, like, do you feel like, even though life can be harrowing, and even though it can be messy and you can have challenges, and every single one of us absolutely does, and I'm not immune to it, all the ups and downs and the stuff, I say, do you feel at some level that you know you're going to make it through? And I haven't found a person yet who's actually said, no, I'm done, I can't get through it. Like, do you feel that, Pen? Like,
yeah,
you're going to, right? Because the depth of you will get through.
There's some sort of knowingness, isn't there?
Yes. Because you've done it however many, if you want to get into reincarnation, like, you've done it stacks of times and you've worked through your lessons and worked through different stuff, and then you've made it through, and then you've come back, or anyone who's listening to this from the earth plane has come back and made it through, and that we are eternal.
I've got a few little wandering people in the house.
Yes.
If you might be hearing little doors close.
Oh, yes.
Little mice wandering around.
I know what that's like.
Yeah, I was wondering when you sort of said about how, you did come out of the closet, as you've said before, but have you found, because I think that I love to encourage people to take steps into the unknown, because what often we find is it's not nearly as scary as we first thought. You open the door and you go, actually, people are really receptive, or this is much less scary than, it's almost like, oh, wow, there's actually another world on the other side of this that is way better than I could ever have imagined. Is that the experience you had?
100%. And even as you just said that, it's like, I just felt that all through my body, because all the fears and the doubts and all that stuff I had, this was stuff I had created in my own mind of how people were going to view me. And the response has overwhelmingly been positive. And there's probably and potentially people that haven't voiced the fact that they think X, Y, Z about me, but it hasn't really come back to me, and I'm not really bothered about it. I would be surprised if people would just listen and go, oh yes, that's true. I want people to have their own healthy skepticism as well. And the support has been overwhelming. And in fact, like, a lot of my close friends said things like, this is, of course, this makes perfect sense. It's not even weird for us that this is because, and then they would all tell me different things or stories or something that they've experienced with me. They'd say, oh, remember you said to me that, that person who gave me the earrings, they wanted a closer relationship with you. Or like, I don't know, I would say various things and I don't even remember them. And it seemed kind of normal to my friends that, like, you've always been interested in this stuff, and it's just, it hasn't been regarded by particularly those close to me as necessarily completely out there.
And I'm interested, so you've gone into a new world effectively, like it sounds very much to many of us like a new world. How did you kind of learn about it? So it sounds like they taught you a lot of this, but were there books, or did you actually find, oh my God, there are other people out there that have similar?
No, I didn't. And because back in 2012, I don't think there was much out. I mean, as I said, it took me years to work out that I was a channeler, which is someone who can access other dimensions via their channel and allow information to flow through. Different to so a lot of mediums, they kind of talk, they get symbols, they get images, they get letters, and they have to kind of piece it together. Whereas with the channeling, it's like, it's the full words are just coming. I don't have to kind of work it out. Thankfully, I thought that would be harder for me. So I didn't find anything out. There probably were books about it, but not in my sphere of where I was going and what I was doing and what I was reading. My books were very much more kind of spiritual, mainstream spiritual books that I was reading. So I didn't know anything about it. And it wasn't until years later that I think I found something on YouTube, and I saw a woman channeling, and I was like, oh my God, that's exactly the same. That is exactly the same as what happens. Because I saw her personality, like I saw it wasn't her, it was a different voice, it was different. And I was excited. I was like, oh my gosh, there's someone else. There's someone else. There's someone else. And there are stacks of channelers I've now discovered that I'm now connected to a number of channelers that channel in a very similar, or some in different ways to me. But ultimately we are all, in my view, channelers, because we are all energy, we are all frequency, we are all vibration with our subtle different layers of energy. And we are not humans. We're currently in the form of humans, but our truth is magnificent light bodies. And so we, at our truth, this is how we communicate. We can communicate beyond this dimension with our higher self, with our angels, with our guides. And people can do that through signs, asking for signs, symbols, journaling, asking questions and seeing. That's how it started a little bit for me, was really just automatic writing. So I'd ask a question and then all this stuff would flow out that I knew wasn't coming from this head, this human head. So people can communicate with their own support team. So I am 100%, in my view, not the only one that has these guides around them. In my view, all humans do.
Yeah, I've got a question, because what's coming for me is, there's talk of getting in flow and sometimes connecting with your inner self or your higher self, and and feeling like you've achieved you're in the zone. You're in the zone. Yeah. And I guess I'm just wanting to clarify, that's a version of this getting on this frequency, but you're also then, so you can connect with your higher self, but there's also other beings. Am I right? Yes.
Yes, all of that is correct. So from my perspective, so when people talk about that feeling of being in the zone.
Yeah, and sometimes creatively you just suddenly download something. And
correct. Yeah. And it just flows, it's easy, it's effortless. And there have been people channeling through the eons, books, songs, plays, music, compositions, and they talk about that. They talk about, I didn't write this song came through me, and this book came through me, and I just had to make way for it to come through. So I believe that when we do get our head out of the way and all of our kind of logical thinking stuff, and it really, channeling for me is allowing. It is really just allowing things to flow through you and to access those higher aspects of ourselves. So some people refer to the higher self aspect. So a part of us that is beyond the dense human frequency and has much more knowing about us. So the higher self knows our gifts that we've come into the planet with, knows ideally what the things we're wanting to learn and the lessons and what we want to work on, knows our past life experiences. But when we come into human form and take birth through this process, there's a forgetting process, because, and this was just explained to me by Goenga recently, I was running a circle and this came out, and he explained that this forgetting process was actually to assist us when we come and we experience different things on this planet in this particular body, to allow us to have the purest form of that experience of its own. There's like the forgetting of all the other things, because if we knew all of our past lives and we knew we'd already had that skill and this skill and we'd already done it, like I could get, it really made sense.
That makes sense. Because I was about to say, often later in life, or even I'm feeling like I'm coming back to what I was beginning.
Yes.
Which is, I guess, the forgetting, washing away or whatever. Or I'm learning, reconnecting with that.
Yes, absolutely. And often that's why a lot of the mystics and different spiritual people talk about really living back as a child in this world, like having the wonder, that childlike wonder and happiness, and accessing that part of ourselves that at that point we didn't know. We hadn't been conditioned with all these constructs, and we didn't know that this was supposed to be scary, and we didn't know that it was fine just to express something that we felt out of our hearts that we wanted to express. And we didn't know that, you might get shut down if you say that, and you can only say that, and be careful, and around those people speak like this, and all the stuff that gets piled up on us. And so it's like, as we get in, so often when we get into our 40s, we start to pull that stuff back and go, hang on, is that true for me? Is that my belief? Have I constructed that? Is that real? And we start to open up and go, right, who am I really, beyond being concerned about what other people think of me, how I should be living my life, all the expectations, all that stuff. So yeah, I thought that was interesting, the way he explained that, which is why we have this forgetting process, so that each experience gives us the purest opportunity for that experience, because at the ultimate level, what's been explained to me is that we are all one consciousness, and we are experiencing various aspects of our one self through all these what appear to be separate beings and to be kind of learning devices with each other as we experience, oh, there's that. Now I know how it feels to have experienced this or that. And now I'll be on the other, I might choose another life where I'm on the other side of that now. And oh, that's interesting. Okay, wow, that was
fascinating.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit, maybe going into specifics of what you've learned around this idea we've got spirit guides. So I've heard, I can't remember if it was from you or I've sort of been more attuned to it recently, that we can have a team of people.
Yes.
Helpers or guides, and
Yes.
maybe what you know around them being, you know, ascended masters and guides
Yes.
versus angels and things like that. Because I also was introduced to this idea we have, well, there's a range of angels, archangels, and you can call on them for different things, or they can be your preferred sort of helper.
Yes.
So yeah, what is it, all those little distinctions that you've learned that could perhaps gift us with?
Yeah, sure. And I've really very much learnt this along the way. all I was kind of certain of when I started this journey was that I had a guardian angel. It just felt so right for me.
And tell us what that is, because I mean, I was given a little guardian angel when I travelled, which is a little golden angel, very much the sort of one you'd see in a church.
Yes.
But yeah, this idea that they look over you wherever you go.
Yeah. So with our guardian angel, and maybe I just ask your listeners, your viewers, to ask yourself this question, which is, do you feel like someone is observing you? Like as you're living your life, do you sometimes feel like someone is with you? Do you feel that? And often people will say that they do kind of feel like there's something with them as they're going through life, but not in a creepy way at all. So guardian angel, what I understand about guardian angel is that this is a particular being who is allocated to you, or you choose before you come into Earth school, and that this being will be with you from the first breath you take on Earth through to the last breath that you take. And so this is like someone who can observe your life journey and can help you when you go back home once the human body passes, and can help with the reflection piece, the review piece, as we kind of go through and review different parts of our lives. Can be called upon to, depending on how connected you choose to be. It's like, it's not a game's not a life is not a game, because I don't want to trivialize it, but in some ways it is a little bit like a computer game, and it's like whether you unlock that secret compartment to access this guide, and it comes down to,
or something.
It comes down to your free will as to whether you make that connection with your guardian angel. So an angel, is my understanding, is a being of light who has never actually lived on as a human. So the frequency of an angel is just far too high. That Earth, the density of Earth is just not for angels. I mean, they can come and observe, and from their frequency, their dimension that coexists parallel with our dimension. So it's the other dimension is here as well at the same time as this dimension, but most of us can only see this dimension. So
that's a good distinction, because I think we've got this idea, I certainly did, that, you know, angels are in heaven, or there's this sort of like atmosphere above us.
Yes.
And we're on this plane and they're above us, but you're actually kind of introducing us to this idea that is parallel or within.
Yes, it's parallel, and it's different frequencies, if that makes sense. it's very hard. Our human mind is very restricted in how much we can actually really comprehend.
I remember, because I studied psychology, and I remember sitting in a lecture where they almost got us to think like we're in the Matrix, this idea that you can have a tablet and you can have different experiences, or even that we could be a brain in some kind of Petri dish or something, and people could be pushing our neurons and creating memories. Like there's this idea that we need to be a bit beyond that, what's real. I mean, you can hallucinate and that could feel very real, or
absolutely. Yeah, and people have, I mean, through drugs, I haven't gone through this path, but a lot of people that have spiritual experiences where they can access other planes of consciousness through drug experiences. I prefer through meditation and through breath work and things like that. So with your angel, you can call in your angel. And I mean, your angel's there available to you always, but say, I'm angel, guardian angel, I need your help right now. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm just really struggling, and just see if you can feel that subtle change, the vibrations start to shift. It's like the calmness comes in, and often you just feel like, for me, it's like I just feel enveloped in just all of this love. So it's going to be okay, Leash. Like, it's all, I know we're right at it right now, or we're experiencing something that feels so real to you right now in your human existence, but it's going to be okay, darling. Like, just that sweet.
So it's this idea you're being held by someone, not necessarily going to take over the reins and do what you need next.
No, unfortunately.
Not going to save you from the...
No, and that's a whole nother thing as well. I mean, there are times when guardian angels do and can intervene. If something's maybe about to happen, it gets a bit confusing, but if at times perhaps if something's going to happen that is not on course, or that's going to mean that someone's life might be cut short and they aren't able to do certain things, or it's not destined for them. But I don't want people to think, oh, your whole life's just destined and fate, and so what's the point? Like it's loose, very loosely, and just some key things, and then we've got all the stuff in between to play with and make decisions about. So that's your guardian angel, who has a name, and then you have a team, and it varies the number of guides that work with each human depending on different stages of life, things that you're doing in life. So I've got a team of kind of a set number of guides, usually around 10 or 11, who I can call on for different things. But I've had many energies come through my channel who I have only ever communicated with once. And they just come through once, they give a message, and then that's it, they're gone. And so it's the same for spirit guides. Some come for just short, fleeting things, and some go, or some might be actually more evolved spirit guides that are almost mentoring your other key spirit guides. And so the guides that work with me, they call themselves ascended masters. I didn't know what that meant, and I had to...
So the first time I came across this, and I can't remember, I think it was before we started talking about your experiences, was in, now I'm going to forget the name, another life...
Many lives, many masters.
Many masters.
Yes.
Her friends gave me a book.
Yes.
And for those of you that haven't come across the book, it's a psychiatrist, or he's definitely got a PhD, very well regarded.
He's a psychiatrist, Brian Weiss.
Yeah, had documented this story of a lady who had come to him having quite significant psychiatric concerns, suicidal, massive problems, and hadn't been able to get any treatment that was working. So he tried hypnotherapy or hypnosis.
Yes.
And when he did that with her, she started to show up as all these different past lives. And he was absolutely convinced, and probably like you, recording it going, is this possible? Could this be real?
He didn't believe it. And she had a phobia of water that she couldn't get over. And he said to her, he would normally say, which year in this life did it first start? When did it first start this phobia. And normally they'd go back to 3 or 4 or 5 or 7 or 8 or whatever. But she went back to a previous life where she remembered or had an experience of being in like a tsunami holding her baby, and she couldn't hold on to her baby, and the tsunami ripped the baby out of her hands. And so that was where it was created, that phobia. And he still didn't believe it. He was like, this is not true. This is all, it's just, she's got an imagination, but it was working. And he's like, this is weird though, because if it's just imagination, why has her phobia for water gone? And what really got him was that one time she was in between lives. She wasn't in a past life. She was at the in-between lives stage.
Oh, that's when they talked about ascended masters, wasn't it?
Is it?
I
actually don't remember ascended masters.
Yeah, no, that's because there was one point similar to that where he talks to someone through her who's an ascended master.
Okay, well, that's exactly it. And that's what got him, because this message was that I'm here with your dad and your son. And Brian's dad and son had both passed, and the woman Catherine didn't know that. And what she knew were things that she could not have found out through research. And one of those things was that the grandfather said that Brian had named his daughter after the grandfather, and also the other information was that the baby had died because the heart was backwards, basically. And that was right, that the baby's kind of aorta valves or something were connected in the wrong way. And that's why this baby, his little boy, had died when he was less than 1, I think. And so there was some other information that came through, and that's when he went, oh my goodness, this is all true.
Yeah, so fascinating book if anyone wants to read. Go and have a look. But that was my first introduction to ascended masters, and then sorry I interrupted you, Alicia.
No, that's good. So, when I was first, because I said to Goenga, what do I call you? And that's when he said, I'm an ascended master. And I was like, what's that? And he explained to me that is an energy, a light that has been through planet Earth enough times to not have to come back. So we're all here.
Bad down here.
Because we're all here. Well, it kind of is. It kind of is, like, compared to our home. That's why no matter how much people feel like everything's going so well, kicking all the goals, everything's aligned, there's always often this kind of sense of a dissatisfaction that people experience. And I ask people about that. Because this is not our home. This is a place of polarity and duality, and there's sickness and there's death and there's harrowing stuff. So once you've kind of learned your lessons, you might not really want to come back when we know what the alternative game realms are. So yes, that he has lived human life, which really helps these spirit guides to be able to guide us, because they get it. Like, they really get how hard sometimes Earth School can be.
So fascinating. So do we choose our guides? Like, is that the sense? Because I'm getting that you have access to perhaps more than, say, me, because you've got a channel. You might have that many around you.
You might have that many around you. I can't see energies, but people might have a team of 8, a team of 10, a team of 12, a team of 6, like whatever at a particular time. But what I can share with you, what I know about my guides, is that these are energies who I've known in previous incarnations. Okay. We've been in many lives together. One of the guides, I've shared this story, I think, with you, Pen, is an ancestral guide of mine who's actually a blood ancestor who's no longer in human form. I think I've told you, maybe, I don't know.
Is this the Indonesian?
Yes, yes. So that was like my final proof, because he came through in 2012 speaking a completely different language, and it did freak me out a little bit. So I'm like this white Aussie woman just talking a completely different language. And as soon as he left my channel, another guide came in and said to me in English, that is Mina Hassan. It's an ancestor guide. And I didn't know what Mina Hassan was, but I went to Google and I was flawed. I'll never forget when I typed in Minahasa and it came up that this was the ancient language spoken in Sulawesi, which is an island in Indonesia. And at the tip, the specific spot is Manado, where my blood grandfather is from. And I was like,
yeah,
oh my goodness, this is interesting.
it's kind of cool though. Like, it feels to me like how reassuring for you to know
Yes.
that these kind of what seem quite bizarre occurrences are piecing together and making sense.
Making sense. And one of the guides comes. So Goenga describes himself as my father spirit guide. So he says, I've got my earth father and he's my spirit father. And he's very fatherly to me. Like, I feel that he's very, he doesn't tell me what to do. I mean, sometimes I just want the answers, you know, should I do this or should I do that? And it's very like, well, you can choose. And if you do that, you'll have that set of experiences. And if you do this, you might have this, you know, it's like very fatherly. And and I've got a mother spirit guide as well. So yeah, that everyone has this support crew. Like, we're not sent to this hard, harsh planet by ourselves. We do have access, and through getting more in touch with our intuition and more in touch with the subtle energies that are at play, then we're able to access more easily the whispers, the information, the feeling of, okay, yes, this feels good. No, this doesn't. And we can start to really trust ourselves. Whereas when we're kind of more in the density of life and not connected to that subtler energy, then we're missing it. We're just missing the signs. And then life will give you a little bit of a hey, and then you don't hear it. It's too hard. It's inconvenient. And so then you get a bit of a bang, and then you get like totally knocked out. It's like, hello, wake up, have a look at your life. Is this really how you envisage spending the rest of your life?
I've heard, and I don't know if it's like a story, but people go, oh, but God, you never told me, or you didn't save me. And then that idea is like, but I have.
I sent you a boat. You didn't save me. No, I'm waiting for God. All the boats are coming. No, God's going to save me. It's like, you didn't save me. I sent you 5 boats.
Yes, that whole idea.
Get in the boat.
And maybe that's the question too, coming up to finishing is, you know, how can people start to tune into these things if it's, you know, really new to them and they're not necessarily, you know, their channel's not open, but what are the little things that they can be looking for? You mentioned numbers, and I know numbers is a big one for you.
Yes.
Stick on the radio, you know, what's the song lyrics, or when you open a book, what's the page? I mean, these are the little things that I'm noticing.
Yes.
But are there any others that you might?
Yes. And numbers is a big thing. And even, I mean, numbers was what I was using at the start when I couldn't just talk directly with them. But even this morning I had a phone call, and it was around kind of a business opportunity, and the phone call ended and I looked and it was like 11:07. And so that's a number that I see and I notice. So very much the interaction requires us to call it out, call for it, invite it. So invite your guardian angel or your spirit guides to connect with you. And you might say, you know, within 24 hours, can you please show me a butterfly? Or within 24 hours, can you please show me like some particular symbol? And the more, even when I still practice these things just for fun, it still blows my mind. It will be like, right, I want to receive an email from that person, or I want to receive a text message from that person. And it's like, and the more we connect with, I mean, there are people that the more we're in sync with them, it's like, I mean, a few people that I later, it's like boom, and again, and we have just more and more of these synchronicities start to arise. So numbers, and as I said, writing, journal, and writing down things. You can ask for messages through books. So you might ask for a particular message, and then the next song that comes on the radio, it's like, oh my gosh, they are the words. That is just what I needed to hear. Or you might pick up a book, just a random book, and say, right, let's have a message, right? And you just turn it and you just see whatever. It's like, oh my gosh. And that's why people use oracle cards and things like that to help. connect. It's like a tool, a bridge to be able to communicate. And I, early on in my journey, I did personally use cards myself to try and have that connection. But for me, the guides connection is beautiful and it's amazing, and it's been an incredible experience. Angel connection as well. And as I was saying to you earlier before we jumped on, that angels don't even talk through me, they only sing, because their vibration is just too high. They can't even just dense down their words to talk. They sing through me, and I'm not a singer. So that's kind of interesting. So they bring through these sounds, and that they can all be, they're multidimensional. So a spirit guide who's working with you might also be working with any number.
Oh, that's one that, that's the question I was wanting to share with you. When I first heard about archangels, I was like, how can that person have an archangel helping them and then they help me as well? And this whole idea that, and I remember thinking that as Jesus, like people who are praying to God and asking and asking for support, and thinking, how does that work? Like,
because we, in our human mind, we are in the linear world where we just,
there's only one of us.
We think there's one of us. So we think so that's how we think the rest of if we're even open to other realms. So multidimensional beings, we are multidimensional beings, as are angels, as are guides. So they can be in any number of places. Like the intelligence that is existing at these planes of consciousness is beyond what we can even possibly fathom or imagine. Like we are kind of like down there.
Basic.
We're pretty basic and pretty simple humans, unfortunately, in terms of the construct of this dense human system. Although the body's intelligent and is incredible, and we can be infinite. But
it's almost like our minds only, and I've even was listening to something today around, we're only really accessing a part of it anyway. So our mind might have this capacity to tune into all this multi-dimensional stuff anyway. But we're kind of shutting it out and filtering it out.
100%. Yeah. So multi-dimensional beings archangels can help and be connected with stacks and stacks of people all at once, because that's their nature. Their nature is multi-dimensional, as are we, I believe. Yeah.
So cool. Perhaps to leave people who are curious or wanting to explore this a little bit more, wherever they are on this journey, what would be some things that you think, we've talked a bit about, reading and stuff, but, what are some ways that they could explore this further, maybe connecting with you, or I know you've got some amazing resources that can expose people to this a bit more, so everything you've been talking about they can see with their own eyes.
Thank you. So one of the key ways to really connect back with ourselves, our pure light, is through breath. And so we've been given breath as this bridgeway, like a connection back to our truth. And so through the breath, really slowing our mind down and kind of getting the monkey mind, the frenzied mind, it's got all the lists and all the stuff, like starting to just relax that part of ourselves and tap into that parasympathetic nervous system. So it's kind of working the intelligence of the body together with the breath to start to calm ourselves down. And so through stillness, solitude, being in nature, people have incredible spiritual experiences because that rhythm, that frequency is more closely aligned to our true frequency. Once we're in the busy pace of life and, technology and cars and all that kind of stuff and the lists and the overwhelm, then there's less of a chance that we can connect and find that part of ourselves. So breath, meditation, anything that's intentional and bringing you back into the present moment, like taps you straight into source energy, this infinite energy that's around and available to us everywhere. So really doing our best to bring that awareness so that we can start moving into conscious living. Like my aim each day, and I fail all the time at it, is a living meditation, to just be very conscious in all the things that I'm doing each day and less autopilot, less unconscious living, and really intentional living. In terms of if people do want to, if they're interested and they want to see the channeling, like the different version of it, I do have a Facebook group where I do direct channeling. So you see all different personalities inside my body and talking out. So that's currently called Breathe, Love, Laugh with Alicia Dumais Temmerman, but the name, I'm toying with a change of name. So always get onto my website to find that. Which is Alicia Temmerman, ALICIA.TEMMERMAN.com. Or you can follow Global Soul Center as well on Instagram. So, but I don't do all the channelings on there. That's kind of just some messages and things like that.
You're offering lots of goodness through lots of different places. I'll definitely share the links in the show notes and on my website. So if you haven't been able to write it down, or your memory is not capable of keeping all that in, that's fine. I have some ways of you to connect in with Leash.
And thank you to Penny for my website.
Oh, yes.
Penny did my Alicia Temmerman website, and you did my Global Soul Center. You did all the 4 businesses websites.
And wasn't that fun? So yes, Leash and I have done lots of things co-creating together. It's such a pleasure to have you here sharing a little, piece of this world that you get to coexist in. Like, I think it's amazing. Totally curious. I'm a bit, I wouldn't say envious, but wanting to explore. And, I know that whatever's ready will come when it's ready.
Yeah, but divine timing.
Exactly. Divine timing. But I think, there's definitely little bits and pieces that I still want to know, but we'll leave it for another time. I hope that that's shone a light on it for you, that this idea is we are supported. Even if that's something you take away from this, is that there's infinite possibilities, there's infinite. I think just the beings of light sounds amazing, doesn't it? It sort of really does. When we talk about shining and stuff, there's that idea that it goes beyond us. It's not just us that we're living. There's an interaction with everyone, and it beings beyond us. I think that's really cool. So I've got so much noise going on in the background here. I'm going to have to wrap it up.
Oh my gosh.
It's the end of the school lockdown day.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Thank you. If you've enjoyed listening, please rate and review and share it, so this little message that Leash has lasts longer and goes further. And thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, beautiful. I love you so much. I love all of our talks, whether they're recorded or not, and love all the work that you're doing in the world. And thank you for allowing me to chat about all things spirit, energy, guides, angels, and all the deliciousness that exists beyond what we can see.
Thank you.